So today, we're diving into this explainer to see exactly how a custom IndyCar seat is actually crafted.
So what does it actually take to make the perfect IndyCar seat? Well, spoiler alert, it's really not about luxury or catching a comfortable ride. It's this insane, intricate dance of engineering, extreme patience, and absolute precision. It's basically a grueling endurance event before the race even begins.
Okay, let's get into phase 1, measuring for the extremes, or, as we like to call it, the human setup. So before any fancy, advanced technology gets involved at all, we literally start with the highly physical, super analog process of human posture. And it has to be absolutely flawless. The driver has to settle in comfortably, sure, but their hips must be perfectly squared. Their shoulders, also perfectly squared. And this is totally crucial. They absolutely have to be wearing their helmet. You just can't simulate the actual space the driver takes up without their real-world gear on. This perfectly squared up, helmeted posture is literally the foundation for the whole shebang. Now, this initial setup reveals a massive point of tension for the technicians because they're desperately trying to balance two competing physical realities. On one hand, you have the height of the driver's head, which is absolutely critical for aerodynamics. If it's even a little too high, it catches the wind and creates drag. But on the other hand, the sightline over the hood is absolutely critical for safety. If the driver is seated too low to cheat the wind, well, they literally can't see the track. It's a constant, exhausting tug of war. And let me tell you, finding that perfect balance is exhausting. As our source points out, the driver sits down, gets out, gets back in several times over. The techs are just constantly measuring, tweaking, and making these microscopic adjustments. It's this physically taxing, incredibly repetitive loop, all just trying to satisfy those crazy aero and safety demands at the exact same time. Which brings us to phase 2, the long cure. Essentially, the waiting game. Once those initial agonizing measurements are finally locked in, time suddenly becomes the biggest factor, turning what you might think is a simple fitting into a multi-day ordeal. First up, technicians have to run a vacuum on the seat setup for an agonizing 4 solid hours. After that, the foam actually has to cure completely overnight. But wait, the physical toll isn't over yet. The very next day, the driver has to return for a final sitting that lasts another 2 to 3 hours. It's just a massive, massive investment of time just to lock in that foundational shape. So during that incredibly intense final 2 to 3 hour sitting, the techs really get hands-on. While the driver sits completely still, which, let's be honest, has to be incredibly tedious, the techs meticulously carve and trim that cured foam. Their goal is to match the exact contour of that specific driver's body as closely as physically possible. What they end up with is a very precise, entirely dull surface. And as you'll see, that dull surface is the absolute key to the next step. All right, moving on to phase 3, digitizing the contour. This is the digital translation. Okay, so we've spent hours on vacuums, curing, and all that analog foam carving. Now, to pivot into the digital world, I want you to focus on this number for a second. 4. Just 4 inches. That is the exact distance they use to space things out on the seat for this final, super critical step. To prep that dull foam surface, the team uses what are called positioning targets. Basically, these are just small reflective dots that get adhered directly onto the trimmed foam. And remember that 4-inch spacing I just mentioned? Yeah, they space these dots exactly 4 inches apart, completely blanketing the seat to create this perfect, highly precise grid pattern. This sets the stage for the final digital capture. This right here is the ultimate bridge between the physical and the digital. Once those reflective dots are stuck on there in their perfect 4-inch grid, a 3D laser scanner is brought in to read every single one of them as the lasers bounce off that dull surface. Finally, a supercomputer takes that insanely dense web of scanned data and translates it into a totally flawless 3D image. This final digital model perfectly accounts for everything: the aerodynamic speed, the safety sightlines, and of course, the driver's exact body contours. It is just a breathtaking amount of work for, well, a place to sit. Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. If a simple seat requires squared hips, literal hours of vacuuming, and a precise 4-inch grid of dots just to balance aerodynamic speed with human safety, what other agonizingly precise details are hiding right in front of us in the world of extreme tech? Keep that in mind the next time you watch a driver slide into the cockpit. Thanks for joining me on this.